The rain had been falling since morning, soft but steady, turning the small town in Oregon quiet and gray. Claire Matthews stood by the kitchen window, watching drops slide down the glass. Feeling the same heavy stillness inside her chest, the house had not felt alive since Daniel died. Every room carried his voice, his laugh, the way he used to hum while making coffee. Now there was only silence and the distant sound of Ethan moving around upstairs. 16 years old, tall for his age, once full of energy, now closed off like a door that no longer opened. Claire had tried everything to reach him. She cooked his favorite foods, asked about school, left notes on his desk, gave him space when he pulled away. Nothing seemed to break through his sadness. They were two people living under the same roof, both hurting, both lonely, both pretending to be strong. That evening, the sky grew darker earlier than usual, thick clouds covering the sun. Thunder rolled far away, and the wind shook the trees outside. Claire turned on a lamp and sat on the couch, holding a warm mug of tea that slowly cooled in her hands. The house felt too big for just two people. She missed Daniel more during storms. He always used to say rain made everything feel honest. Just as another deep thunder sound echoed, the lights flickered once, twice, then went out completely. The house fell into darkness, broken only by the soft glow of streetlights outside and the rain hitting the roof. Claire let out a slow breath and stood up, moving carefully toward the drawer where she kept candles. She lit a few and placed them around the living room. Warm light danced across the walls, making the space feel smaller, safer. She wrapped herself in a blanket and sat back down, listening to the storm. For a long moment, there was only the sound of rain. Then she heard footsteps, slow, unsure, coming down the stairs. She looked up. Ethan stood at the edge of the hallway, his hair messy, his hands in the pockets of his hoodie. The candlelight made his face look softer than usual, younger, like the boy he had been before loss had hardened him. "Power's out," he said, quietly. "I know," Claire replied gently. "Storm must have hit the lines." He nodded but didn't move away. He stood there like he wanted to say something but wasn't sure how. Claire patted the couch beside her. "You can sit if you want." He hesitated, then slowly walked over and sat at the far end, leaving space between them. They sat in silence. For a few seconds, the storm filled the gaps. "Do you want to watch something?" Ethan finally asked, his voice low. Claire's heart skipped. It had been months since he had asked to spend time with her. "Yeah," she said softly. "Right. Like that." She grabbed a tablet and opened a movie app while he moved a little closer so they could both see the screen. He scrolled for a moment, then stopped. "This one," he said. "Dad liked it." It was an old romantic movie about two people finding love again after loss. Claire swallowed. "Okay." The movie began, and soft music filled the room. At first, they both sat stiff, unsure. But as the story unfolded, something changed. The characters laughed, cried, and slowly healed, and without noticing, Ethan leaned slightly closer. Their shoulders brushed, neither pulled away. Claire felt warmth spread through her chest, not just from the blanket, but from the simple closeness. Ethan stared at the screen, his jaw tight. Halfway through the movie, a scene showed the main character talking about missing someone who had passed away. Ethan's breathing changed. Claire noticed his hands trembling. "You okay?" she whispered. He nodded but didn't look at her. Tears filled his eyes. "I miss him," he said quietly. "Every day." Claire felt her own eyes burn. She wanted to fix his pain but knew she couldn't. "I do too," she said softly. Silence followed, thick with emotion. Then, slowly, Ethan leaned his head against her shoulder. It was small, innocent, but powerful. Claire froze for half a second, then gently rested her head against his. They sat like that, watching the movie while rain poured outside. "I don't feel so empty when I'm here," Ethan whispered. "When I sit with you," Claire's chest tightened. Neither of them spoke after that. But something changed. The storm outside felt farther away, The house felt warmer, the loneliness softened. When the movie ended, the screen went dark, reflecting their faces in the candlelight. Ethan didn't move right away. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what? For staying? For not leaving?" Claire's throat closed. "I'm not going anywhere," she said. He nodded slowly. As he stood to go back upstairs, he paused. "Can we do this again sometime?" Claire forced a small smile. "Of course." He walked away, footsteps fading. Claire remained on the couch, heart beating fast. She told herself it was just comfort, just two people hurting together. But deep inside, she felt something else beginning to wake, something she wasn't ready for, something she didn't want to feel. The rain kept falling, the candles kept burning. And in the quiet house, a new chapter had quietly begun, one neither of them understood yet, but both would never forget. After that stormy night, something shifted in the house. The silence was no longer heavy in the same way. It was softer, almost careful, like both Claire and Ethan were afraid to break the new connection they had found. The next evening, Ethan came downstairs on his own and asked what she was watching. Claire smiled and made space for him. They didn't talk much, but they sat closer than before, sharing the warmth of the blanket and the glow of the screen. From that day on, it became their quiet tradition. Every few nights they would meet in the living room, choose a movie, and sit together while the world outside faded away. The movies were often about love, loss, and hope. Sometimes funny, sometimes sad, but always full of emotion. Ethan slowly began to laugh again. It surprised Claire the first time she heard it. A real laugh, not forced. It felt like hearing music after months of silence. He started commenting on the stories, guessing endings, asking Claire what she thought about the characters. She enjoyed these moments more than she wanted to admit. They made her feel alive again. With each movie night, Ethan opened up more. He talked about how school felt empty without his friends understanding him. He said people treated him like he was fragile, like he might break at any second. He admitted he hated coming home to a quiet house at first because it reminded him his dad wasn't there anymore. Claire listened carefully, never interrupting, letting him release the thoughts he had kept locked inside. One night, after a movie where a young boy lost his father, Ethan's voice shook. "I didn't even get to say goodbye," he said. "Everything happened so fast." Claire reached out and gently touched his hand. "I know," she said softly. "It wasn't fair." Tears rolled down his face, and for the first time, he didn't try to hide them. "I feel angry sometimes," he confessed. "I feel guilty for being angry." "That's normal," Claire said. "Grief isn't clean, it's messy." He nodded, breathing slowly, holding her hand tighter. That simple touch became something they both noticed more each time it happened. It wasn't planned. It just happened during sad scenes, during quiet moments, during deep talks. Soon, Ethan started sitting closer without thinking. Claire would pull the blanket over, both of them when the room felt cold. Their shoulders pressed together, their arms brushing, their presence comforting. Claire told herself it was harmless. He told himself it was just safety. But emotions don't always listen to logic. One evening, they watched a romantic film about two people finding love after heartbreak. The main characters shared a deep conversation about loneliness. Ethan stared at the screen, then spoke quietly. "Do you ever feel empty, even when someone is right next to you?" Claire thought about the long nights in bed alone, the sound of Daniel's empty side of the room, the ache that never fully left. "Yes," she said, "a lot." "I don't feel empty when I'm with you," he said. "It's like the pain gets quieter." Her heart beat faster. "I feel calmer with you too," she admitted. They looked at each other for a moment longer than usual. The movie kept playing, but neither paid attention. Something invisible passed between them. Not words, not touch, just awareness. From that night on, the glances became longer. The silence became heavier. The closeness felt stronger. Claire would catch herself thinking about movie nights during the day. She would rush through chores just to be ready by evening. She hated herself for how much she looked forward to it. Ethan started finishing homework faster so he could come down earlier. He would sit on the couch even before she arrived. They were both drawn to each other in ways that confused them. One rainy night, as thunder echoed again, the lights stayed on this time, but the mood felt the same as that first evening. They watched quietly until the movie ended. Neither moved. The room was filled with soft background music from the credits. "Claire," Ethan whispered. "Yes, I don't know why, but when I'm with you, I feel like everything makes sense." She swallowed hard. "You're not broken," she said gently. "You're just hurting." "I don't hurt as much with you," he replied. Tears filled her eyes. She placed her hand over his. "Shh, don't have to go through this alone." He squeezed her hand slowly. Their eyes met. For a moment it felt like the world held its breath. Claire's heart pounded loudly in her ears. This is crossing a line, her mind warned. Her heart didn't listen. Ethan leaned slightly closer, not touching her face, not doing anything wrong, just closing the distance. Claire didn't pull away. They stayed like that, close enough to feel each other breathe. Nothing happened, yet everything changed. After that night, the emotions grew faster. Claire found herself missing Ethan when he was at school, Ethan thought. About her voice when he felt sad, they were still careful, still respectful, but the feelings were no longer just comfort. They were becoming something deeper, something confusing, something dangerous. One evening after another emotional movie, Ethan spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes when we sit together like this, I wish time would stop." Claire closed her eyes for a second. "Why?" she asked softly. "Because it's the only time I don't feel lost." Her chest tightened. She reached out and gently held his hand again. "I don't want you to feel lost," she said. And in that moment, both of them understood something without saying it. Their bond was no longer only about healing. Feelings were growing where they shouldn't, and neither knew how to stop them. Outside, rain began to fall again, slow and steady, as if reminding them how everything had started. Inside the quiet house, two hearts were drifting closer, unaware of the storm that would soon come.